let's talk about my favorite places that I have visited so far while living in Ecuador. It's kind of going to be a roundup, so just bear with me as I guess share my top 3, and if anything else comes to mind, then I'll let you know or write a blog post about it. Number 1 on the list is to Otavalo. Okay, so if you have been following along on our travel journeys, we have visited Otavalo twice, and both times were actually with our little one. Otavalo, the first time was to a place called Cabanas del Lago, I believe that's what it was. And that was our first big family trip, which I loved so much. The only hiccup with that trip was we forgot to pack our travel crib, but also it being our first trip, we didn't really know to pack our travel crib, so we forgot to do that. And then had to co-sleep with our child, and he has done the co-sleeping, but he's not great with the co-sleeping because he just needs all the space, which means we have 0 space, and he moves a lot. So other than sleeping, it really was a fantastic trip. And I found that with Cabanas del Lago, it is very family friendly. They had mini golf. There was like a little daycare area if your child was over 2 years old. They had water activities and water sports and petting zoo, and there was just so much. I highly recommend that you check it out if you are looking for a place to visit. And then the restaurant there was just absolutely fantastic and very accommodating to us as a family, especially their breakfast. I forgot about their breakfast until now. It was fantastic. I highly recommend that you check out Cabanas del Lago. The reason why Otavalo is on our list as a high point is because we actually visited again. I just love how close it is to Quito. I think it took us about an hour and a half each time we drove up there and obviously drove back home. And that to me is a great amount of time for a little mini road trip. So it is a great, great trip. And it's something that we felt we could make multiple times, which is what we did. So our second trip was to a little hacienda, which I thought was absolutely gorgeous. I am a sucker for aesthetics, architecture, and all of those things and the historical elements of a city, places, accommodations, and this particular hacienda was absolutely fantastic and gorgeous, and the grounds were amazing. I would say that it wasn't as family friendly in terms of all the activities that the previous place we visited had, but it was still nice. They had horseback riding and they had, food was for everybody. The dining space, although it seemed a little fancier, and made me nervous as a newer parent at the time, to take my child to, everything was open to everybody. And there was even a nighttime storytelling, and they had like alcoholic beverages and things like that and snacks at this little nighttime event. And we took our baby and it was fantastic and it was fine. So I think what I love about going places in Ecuador when it comes to trips is how understanding folks are, especially with you and your children, you and your child, me and my child and my family. I find that people will do whatever they can to accommodate you versus in other countries we've been in, namely my own at times, it just feels like such a task and such a chore to accommodate you and your little one. And that doesn't feel good as parents. So I was really happy about the experiences we were able to have in Otavalo. And I definitely would go back, if not to these 2 key places, definitely we'll just pick somewhere else. And I feel like it would also be very fantastic. So I recently just posted a travel vlog all about our trip to Cuenca. This was the second time we visited Cuenca. So if you're noticing, places that we go to multiple times are favorites. But Cuenca this time around was lovely because I was able to go with my child, my toddler, my 2-year-old. Well, at the time he was almost 2. And it was just really great. There was just this sense of freedom that I felt being in Cuenca specifically. It felt safe, it felt calm, it felt just inviting and open. I mean, there were just so many things to do, so many places to eat at and visit. And again, just the walkability of the city was fantastic. I loved the shops and the markets and the vendors and the stalls. All those things really made me feel excited to matriculate around a city while traveling. Of course, we stayed at our favorite hotel in Cuenca again, and it's a favorite for a ton of reasons, but in particular, it's similarly to what I spoke about with the accommodations in Otavalo. Where we stayed at in Cuenca was just very accommodating, especially for us and our little ones. And going back to that crib situation, what I'll tell you is this: if you're not used to co-sleeping with your child, or your child just won't sleep and you just need to get your sleep, just bring your own travel crib. They're not readily available at the more local establishments, but bringing your own is very helpful. So we brought our travel crib on this trip as well. We bring our travel crib everywhere. We learned from that first one that the travel crib is key. So we brought our travel crib on this particular trip, and it was fantastic. And we did the hop on, hop off bus tour. We ate at that Black owned restaurant, Piqueterina, Carina, I think. Excuse my Spanish. And yeah, it was just a really good trip. If you're looking at traveling to Ecuador, a stop to Cuenca definitely needs to be on your list. I almost want to say that I'm like a native to Quito, but I'm not. I'm just here visiting and just, you know, working, visiting, expatting, all those things. One of my favorite activities that I did in Quito was actually the city tour I did with my friend Edison. He runs a travel company called Awaken, and that was an amazing way to see Quito. It was actually an amazing way to get to a part of Quito that I never thought that I would get to, despite the distance of the city center not technically being too far. It just wasn't something that I was interested in doing on my own and with my baby. And so when the tour idea came up, I had to jump at the chance to do it, and it was perfect. It helped me in my little adventurous spirit just feel a sense of home. It gave me a sense of understanding more about Quito and Ecuador in particular. I got to learn more about the historical significance of a lot of things, the cultural importance of a lot of things as well. And yeah, I mean, tours, we already know tours in any country are going to be the best way for you to see a lot and do a lot in a short period of time. But this particular tour, it was a walking tour, and it definitely gave us a lot. And I think it was like 3 hours or so. And I was able to do that with my child and my husband. We all went, and it was a really nice family day. And then being down there allowed us to venture out to more places. So restaurants and, you know, all of that stuff. So I was really happy with that tour. And then, so I guess you could call that a staycation or a hometown kind of tour. So this other thing that we did was actually a true staycation where we booked a hotel in Quito, and it was fantastic. We actually booked Go Quito, and I think Go Quito at the time was fairly new-ish. It's a great hotel. I highly recommend that you check it out if it's close to where you will either be needing to move around or work, or you just want a cool place to stay. Go Quito is great, and their food is good. The places nearby are great. There is a Quito Pizza right across the street and other restaurants in the area. It is a really great little hub, and I think Quito is definitely one of my favorite places for staycations and hometown tours like the one I mentioned. And yeah, I think that it's so important, expat or local, to really try, if you can, explore your hometown, your home city, because there are so many things to do right in your own backyard. And I think we have this misconception that travel means we have to go somewhere far. That is not the case at all. There is something to do right outside of this window, and that to me is travel. That is adventure. It just depends on how you look at it. So I would say that we traveled a good amount during our time in Ecuador, especially with a baby, especially with an up-and-coming 2-year-old, so from birth to 2. We did quite a lot, and I'm really proud of all that we've been able to do so far, and really happy that we have been able to visit not just the places I mentioned on this list, but also some other honorable mentions like the Galapagos. That was a really great trip. but I had to just pick 3. So if I go through and can pick a few more, I definitely will, and include that in the blog post that I will also share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Mwah.